What started as a typical college Saturday night out ended in one of the most shocking quadruple homicides in recent American history. 4 University of Idaho students were brutally murdered in their sleep, sending shockwaves through the small college town of Moscow, Idaho, and captivating the nation's attention for months. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into every detail of the Idaho murders case, from that fateful night in November 2022 to the arrest of the suspect, 28-year-old graduate student Bryan Kohberger, and beyond. Before we get into the timeline, let's take a moment to remember the 4 young lives that were tragically cut short. Madison Mogen, 21, from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, was a senior majoring in marketing. Xana Kernodle, 20, from Avondale, Arizona, was a junior also studying marketing and a member of the Pi Beta Phi sorority. Ethan Chapin, just 20 years old, from Conway, Washington, was a freshman studying recreation, sport, and tourism management and a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. And Kaylee Goncalves, 21, from Rathdrum, Idaho, was a senior majoring in general studies. These weren't just statistics. They were friends, students with bright futures, and beloved family members whose lives were stolen in the most horrific way imaginable. Saturday, November 12, 2022, started like any typical college weekend night. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen, who were lifelong best friends and roommates, decided to go out in Moscow. They spent their evening at the Corner Club, a local bar, from 10 p.m. until 1:30 a.m. Meanwhile, Ethan Chapin attended a formal event with his sister before heading to the Sigma Chi fraternity house with his girlfriend, Xana Kernodle. The 2 other roommates who had survived the attack also went out in Moscow that night. What none of them knew was that this would be the last normal night of their lives. The victims' final hours were later reconstructed by police through security footage and digital evidence. After leaving the Corner Club, Kaylee and Madison stopped at a food truck at 1:40 a.m. before heading home. Ethan and Xana left the fraternity party and arrived back at the house at approximately 1:45 a.m. All 4 victims were back in the house by this time, with Ethan staying over to spend the night with his girlfriend Xana. The house, located on King Road adjacent to Greek Row and just blocks from the University of Idaho campus, would soon become the scene of an unthinkable tragedy. What happened in the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, has been pieced together through police investigation, court documents, and testimony from the surviving roommates. According to court documents, police believe the murders occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. The timeline becomes chilling when you realize how close the surviving roommates came to potentially encountering the killer. At approximately 4 a.m., Xana Kernodle received a DoorDash delivery order at the house. Security footage from nearby homes captured evidence of this delivery, and it would later become a crucial piece of the timeline. Around the same time, one of the surviving roommates woke up to what she thought was Kaylee playing with her dog. But what she was hearing was likely the beginning of the attack. The surviving roommate's account, detailed in court documents, provides a terrifying glimpse into those final moments. She heard someone she believed was Goncalves say something to the effect of, "There's someone here," though investigators later determined this could have been Kernodle, as phone records showed she was on TikTok at approximately 4:12 a.m. The roommate looked out of her bedroom but didn't see anything initially. When she opened her door a second time, she heard what she thought was crying coming from Kernodle's room. Most chillingly, she then heard a male voice, though the rest of this testimony has not been fully released to the public. Despite hearing these disturbing sounds, the surviving roommates went back to sleep for the remainder of the night. This detail has been the subject of much public scrutiny and speculation. But it's important to remember that in a college house, unusual noises at 4 a.m. might not immediately signal danger. The roommates had no way of knowing they were witnessing a quadruple homicide unfold. The horror was discovered approximately 7 hours later when the surviving roommates woke up and found their friends. They immediately called 911 and contacted other friends. Moscow Police Department officers responded to a report of an unconscious person around noon at the home on King Road. When police entered the house, they found all 4 victims dead from stab wounds. The initial investigation moved quickly to establish basic facts about the crime. On November 15th, Just 2 days after the discovery, the Moscow Police Department issued a statement confirming that an edged weapon such as a knife was used in the killings, though no murder weapon had been found. This detail would become crucial to the investigation, as the killer had apparently taken the weapon with them. Police Chief James Fry held a press conference on November 16th. He declared the murders were a targeted attack, but admitted, "We do not have a suspect at this time, and that individual is still out there." The autopsy results, released on November 17th by the Latah County Coroner's Office, confirmed what many had suspected about the brutality of the attack. The victims were likely asleep when they were stabbed with a large knife, and some had defensive wounds, indicating they had fought for their lives. The coroner's findings painted a picture of a vicious attack that occurred while the victims were at their most vulnerable. After weeks of investigation, the police made several breakthroughs. The first major breakthrough came from a single piece of evidence left at the crime scene, a K-bar knife sheath. On its button snap, investigators found a single source of male DNA. That DNA was later matched to a suspect through forensic testing. Another breakthrough came from surveillance footage that captured a white Hyundai Elantra circling the victim's home before and after the murders. And then there was the witness statement from one of the surviving roommates. She saw someone in the house that night, and she described him as a tall, athletically built man with bushy eyebrows. Based on these leads, the police were able to zero in on Bryan Kohberger, a criminology PhD student at nearby Washington State University. Forensic testing matched his DNA with the sample collected at the crime scene. In addition, the roommate's description closely matched Kohberger's physical appearance. Not only that, Kohberger owned a white Hyundai Elantra. More importantly, his cell phone records placed him near the victim's home multiple times before the murders, 11 of those visits occurring late at night. On the night of the killings, his phone was turned off, only to reactivate hours later, miles away from the crime scene. With mounting evidence and a defense strategy full of twists, the nation watches as the story continues to unfold. Many questions still remain unanswered as the legal process continues. What was the exact motive for these killings? Why were these 4 students specifically targeted? Kohberger's trial is set for August 2025. If convicted, he could face the death penalty, making this one of the most serious criminal cases in Idaho in recent years. Will justice be served, or will the case take an unexpected turn? Let us know what you think in the comments. The case continues to develop as it moves through the court system, and we can only hope that the legal process will bring some measure of justice and closure to those affected by this devastating tragedy. Until then, we remember the victims and continue to seek answers about what happened on that terrible night in Moscow, Idaho. For more true crime stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.